and welcome to our latest installment of Getting Through Coronavirus Explained. Today, we're speaking to two important guests as COVID-19 brings California's economy to a halt. So with us are Labor Commissioner Lilia Garcia-Brower and Loree Levy, Deputy Director of Public Affairs for the state's Employment Development Department. And your CalMatters host today will be Assistant Editor Judy, who's been reporting extensively on the broad economic impact of the pandemic in California. And she's joined by reporter Nigel Duara, who's been taking on the role of our Dear Abby. He's been fielding all sorts of audience questions for us in addition to doing coronavirus coverage. And we want you to be part of this conversation as well. Please submit your questions by typing them into the chat box on the right-hand side of the YouTube screen. Judy and Nigel will ask their questions first to Lily and Loree, and then they'll open up the session to your your questions. Before I turn over to them, I just want to remind you, if you haven't already, to please sign up for our daily newsletter, What Matters, because you can see this is my first event. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, where you're watching these events, and consider becoming a CalMatters member or a donor to help us keep us doing our nonpartisan, nonprofit journalism on the issues that matter to you most in California's capital. All the information needed to do all that is on our website, calmatters.org. And with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to Judy and Nigel.
Thank you, Vanessa. So, these are unprecedented times. Economists have been telling us that we're almost certainly headed for a recession, but families don't need some official statement to tell them what's happening to them right now. We know that just in less than 2 weeks, more than 1 million Californians have filed for unemployment claims. To give you some sense of the scale of that, those weekly applications are 9 times higher than they were at the peak of the Great Recession. So, we knew first that tourism and hospitality, restaurants, bars are all being pummeled just because everything's shut down. But there's pain everywhere. Millions of California workers and their families are in financial stress, losing their jobs, having their hours reduced. And we also know that this is hitting households that are least able to endure a financial hit. So what we're doing here is trying to get some real answers from you. And we're really grateful to Loree and Lilia for joining us. So that's where our conversation begins.
Hi, and thank you all for joining us. First question, unemployment numbers came out today. EDD is pretty swamped with applications. So the question for us is, what are you doing to relieve that backlog? And what does it mean for people who are waiting for unemployment and probably won't make their April rent? Oops, you got to go off mute, sorry. Oh.
Okay, now, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. I think all of us have been challenged in this whole teleworking capacity, correct? So, no, we totally understand that there are so many people impacted through this very historic event that we're experiencing. The claim numbers that came out today, the only official data that we report to the U.S. Department of Labor are the number of claims processed each week. Those come out on Thursdays for the prior week. So yes, we processed about 187,000 unemployment insurance claims last week. And we've been doing a number of different things in which I think you will see a really huge spike in those number of claims processed next week. Anything else you hear are really just kind of estimates about incoming claims received. There is no official data for that. But you asked me about what are we doing to handle this historic claim load. And let me tell you, it is all hands on deck with a number of different solutions that we're putting in place. First of all, we've been able to really adjust a lot of eligibility requirements because of this particular unique situation. And that's allowed us to automatically process a large number of claims through our system. So that's been extremely helpful. And that's really helping us ramp up to get a much higher rate of processing going on. Also, we've been able to do a number of other tactics, a combination of which include staff working around the clock, redirecting hundreds of staff from throughout the department and across state government, as well as even some new recent retirees. Anyone with some unemployment insurance processing experience, we're bringing on board, and that situation is evolving. So truly, it is a matter of all hands on deck to deal with this historic claim load.
Great, thank you so much. This one's for Lilia, and this is a question that we've gotten, I would say, close to 200 times. People are either seniors or medically fragile or both. They have been told by their job that they need to come to work. They've been told by the state they shouldn't go to work. What kind of protections does the state have for people who have genuine fears, have been told by public health officials they should worry, and they're trying to figure out what they do next? Do they have any kind of protections? Can something be done for them?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And let me just take a moment and acknowledge, as Loree did, just the tremendous, unprecedented health crisis that we're in, and just acknowledge as human beings the incredible uncertainty and vulnerability, frustration and fear that everybody is feeling, and to encourage us to please engage with each other from the perspective of human beings, and to exercise compassionate and empathetic communication as we struggle to get through these times. So as Labor Commissioner, I have two priorities, and that is one, to implement remote operations so that we can continue to provide essential functions to employers and workers in California. And specifically to your question, yes, workers are protected, and we have labor code statutes that provide those protections. Now, this is a dynamic situation and evolving, so there are certain information that we are still assessing and we are still evaluating. So we don't necessarily have the decisions for you today, but we can take that question back and get back to you. But absolutely, there are protections that workers have, and we want to provide that information to individuals. We also want to advise employers to make sure that everyone understands that the labor code protections and the IWC orders, they are still in force. And so it is important for us to be mindful as we adjust to this crisis, that we be mindful about those obligations. And as we adjust policies as well, that we be mindful, we still have an obligation to provide workers with a workplace that is free of retaliation and discrimination, and that is a safe working environment.
If I could just follow up really quickly, sorry, Judy. So what you're telling people, again, in this situation, who are 65 and older, medically fragile, or both, is that they do, as of today, in California law, have protections if they choose to stay home, or is that still being figured out?
So we do have, in general, two groups. We have essential jobs and we have non-essential jobs. So absolutely, in non-essential jobs, we have frequently asked questions up on our website that people can reference, where we do state that if you are in immunocompromised population and you are unable to go to work, that you do have rights afforded to you under paid sick leave. And there is also a Labor Code 230.8 that provides 40 hours of leave. And whether that leave is paid or unpaid, it has to do with what is the policy that the employer provides at work. Now, if you are an employee in an essential job, that is where we do not have that information for you today. But we will be providing that information for you as soon as it is available.
Okay. And this one is mostly for Loree, but Lilia, you're welcome to chime in. I wonder if you can rattle off sort of what has the state done in response to make it easier for people to collect benefits, like waiving the first week, expanding paid sick leave or paid family leave to families who now have children at home. Can you do the high level arc for us, just to the audience out there, about who's being expanded, who's getting coverage.
And Lilia, you may want to talk with about the paid sick leave first, and I can go over some of the other things. Does that sound good?
Absolutely. So paid sick leave, it is accrued at 1 hour for every 30 hours of work. And a worker is able to exercise paid or utilize paid sick leave after being employed for 90 days. And the employer does have the ability to put a cap on that to be 3 days within the 12-month period. And we have extended the interpretation of the use of paid sick leave to include preventative care. So if they're concerned about their own exposure, or they're concerned about the exposure of a family member, they are able to exercise paid sick leave. And I do want to also highlight that paid sick leave has firm protections from retaliation. So an employee should be able to exercise that protection without experiencing any form of retaliation.
Great, thanks, Lily. And I'll just add on to that, that oftentimes if someone doesn't have their paid sick leave or they're out of leave, there is also the disability insurance program that most Californians pay into. And that does get coverage. For instance, if you are unable to work because you are sick, you can claim disability insurance benefits through our EDD. Or if you have to take care of someone who is ill or medically quarantined, then we have paid family leave benefits that are available. And all this information we certainly do have available on our EDD website. But you had asked a little bit as well, Judy, about some of the things that have been done to try to even provide greater assistance to Californians. And certainly with our labor secretary's authority, we've been able to, really adjust eligibility requirements, and that's helping us automatically process more claims. The governor did waive the 1-week waiting period on unemployment claims. And what that basically means is that normally, if you're found eligible for benefits, we do the 3 weeks of processing, and then you get your first benefit payment. And instead of getting 2 weeks worth of benefit payments like you do pretty much through the extent of your claim, you get only one, because that first week you're unemployed is an unpaid period. That's been waived. So in this particular case, now if you're found eligible for benefits, we can send you a full 2 weeks worth of benefits on that first payment when you receive it after about 3 weeks of processing. So that's really good news too, that the governor's been able to put in place.
And obviously, congressional leaders in the White House, they struck a bipartisan deal for a $2 trillion economic stimulus package. I know we're still learning all the details of it, but at this point, can you explain to Californians what kind of help is coming through, whether it's higher benefit levels for unemployment or extended periods of time? At this point, do you have any sense of what we can expect?
Well, I can simply say this so far, that obviously there's a lot of conversation, discussion going on in Congress, and the states have yet to receive any of the directives that we need in terms of what we need to implement, what regulations and rules will be in place and so forth. We're still waiting on that. And the moment we get it, we'll certainly be updating people, putting information up on our EDD coronavirus webpage. But basically, it's one of those things that typically it's employers who contribute to unemployment insurance, and that's how benefits get paid for by those who qualify. In economic downturns that we've experienced here in California, the federal government will kick in additional benefits that the federal government pays for, and that's called extended benefits. That happened. We had 4 historic federal extension benefits in the last recession. So we're still waiting to see exactly what will come forth for individuals in this particular situation out of the federal government. So stay tuned. A lot more details still to come on that.
Great. And let's take a step back. How does unemployment work? You can just briefly walk us through it. If you're a person who just found out that you as a server or a sous chef or whatever have been laid off, what happens right away? What should you do?
Well, for most workers, the moment that they have either lost work or have had their hours reduced through no fault of their own, which is so many people right now, obviously, then we encourage you to apply for unemployment right away. And the best way to do so is online. We have a UI online system that's still up and running. If anybody ever has any issues in getting through, it's probably just because there are a lot of people trying at the same time. So come back and try later. And then it always takes about 3 weeks to process that claim because we have to check it against wage records. It is a wage replacement program. Therefore, it's designed to replace a portion of the wages you would have been earning if you could work. So we have to check with you, like, how did you separate from your employer? What happened? And starting tomorrow, we invite people to please check the drop-down menu that says it's because of the coronavirus on that online application. That's really going to help us out. And then what happens, we have to check wage records going back the last 12 to 18 months. And that tells us how much of a benefit payment you could be eligible to receive. So for most Californians, and so far we're still timely, and we're putting together everything we can to keep it that way, that it should take about 3 weeks to process that claim. You'll hear from us within that time frame where you have to submit to us that, yes, I continue to be unemployed, and then your first benefit payment should arrive. The only problem that may take additional time in handling is if we get information from someone that doesn't match with the wage records we have or doesn't go ahead and jive with the identity verification information we have. And that means we'll have to get back to that person and request some additional documentation.
The state declared an emergency March 4th. By March 15th, the governor had ordered the shuttering of lots of businesses, people, non-essential businesses, people were out of jobs. For someone that were to file around March 15th, 16th, how soon could they actually see dollars in their bank account?
Well, you should be able to hopefully hear from us by the end of the weekend. And that means that the ball is now in your court and you do what's called certifying. Go into your system and say, yep, got it. It looks like I'm eligible and I'm certifying, yes, I'm still unemployed and not able to work. And then your payment should be able to turn around within a week. So really, for most people without any of those issues I discussed, they should be able to receive their first payment within about 3 weeks from the time of which they submitted their application.
Sure. Last one for me here. People were laid off and didn't get their last paycheck for that community. And we're an at-will state. What can you do to assure them that though we're an at-will state, they do have a good chance of getting rehired if and when this passes?
Well, for the most part, I can tell you that what we're finding is, and that's why we're able to kind of adjust some of our eligibility requirements. So anyone who's ever been on unemployment before knows that you usually have to be available, and looking for work while you're collecting unemployment benefits, because the whole point is just to provide you some temporary financial support while you're looking for your next job. Obviously, that's a very difficult thing to do right now, which is why we've been able to adjust a lot of those requirements. So that helps people. And then the idea is for most people, they should be able to return to their employer once this situation settles down. And then we'll see what happens whenever that does arrive.
Lilia,
If I could just add,
yeah.
if I could just add that there's still timely payments are required. So if your employer provided 72 hours of notice, they have 72 hours to issue your final paycheck. And that final paycheck should be complete with all benefits that the employer provides. If you are terminated on the spot, then you should receive that final paycheck when you are terminated on the spot. If your employer fails to comply with either of these timelines, then you are able to file for waiting time penalties that would be equivalent to the wages you earn for each day of labor up to 30 days. So if your payment is delayed for 10 days, then you will be able to pursue 10 days of waiting time penalties. And you can file that claim on our website at dir.ca.gov.
Loree, this question, I think, is mostly for you. You know, there was a recent report by the Legislative Analyst's Office saying that EDD may not be ready or have the capacity to handle the volume and the benefit changes that are coming down the pike. And I wanted to get a response. You know, is the state ready to handle this tidal wave of claims?
You know, I don't think any state has ever been prepared for this kind of tidal wave. It's historic. It's truly historic. So the question is, how can we adjust as quickly as possible? And I'm very grateful for a lot of the changes we've been able to implement just over the last couple of days, which is why I think you'll see our claims process numbers spike incredibly come next week's official data. So that's the good news. We are working with an unemployment insurance online, our system, our processing system that we've been working with the legislature, on a project to update over the last couple of years. And we're trying to bring our disability insurance, paid family leave insurance program all under the same common system. And that's going to be able to help us be much more agile in the future, absolutely. But because of a lot of the temporary things that we can put in place right now and push a lot of these claims through our system automatically, that's going to help us a lot in keeping as timely as we can with these payments. And as developments occur, we'll be keeping people posted on our EDD website, and that's the edd.ca.gov.
Okay. And then real quickly, there's a smaller cohort of people who were already collecting unemployment benefits before the pandemic hit. Are you aware if they're going to get more time, an extension to collect more benefits, or how does this impact them?
Well, for people who are in claim status prior to this event occurring, we continue to remain timely with their benefit payments, which is the great news. And we're really trying to keep it that way for everyone as we move forward. But, we don't really have any details yet from the federal government upon whether or not, there will be an extension. It looks like there is, and what Congress is working through. And we just have to get those details to find out exactly how much an extension benefits will become available.
Obviously, we don't know what we don't know, but can you give us your best projections right now? We're sure you're doing them about how many people could be filing for unemployment over at least the span we're looking at if we just take the next 60 days.
It's hard to say. I mean, the week ending March 14th, we processed about 58,000 claims. The following week, it was around 187,000. That's a 363% increase from the year prior in the same week. So yes, things continue to be coming in at a very, very record pace. So that's why we're really trying every and all options to throw at this. So we know these benefit payments are critical for people, and that is our priority.
Jumping to gig workers, they kind of fall into a bit of a gray area because they're not classified as employees, but at the same time, there has been calls, San Francisco, the Board of Supervisors County up there, they're calling on the state to enforce the AB5 order for Uber and for Lyft drivers and for other gig workers to claim the benefits. So for both of you, what kind of help is available for people? And again, in Los Angeles, this is a big, big part of the economy, who are independent contractors and freelancers.
Lilia, do you want me to go first on that one?
Sure.
What I can tell you is that we have always, when someone applies for benefits and they believe that they've been working as an employee and are due benefits, that always triggers an investigation with us if something happens where the wage records submitted to us don't match with what we have. So what AB5 does is just provide a different test for that. So what we've been telling people, there are situations where, this is an insurance program, and if no one's contributed on your behalf in the past, whether that be you or your employer, it's possible you may not be eligible until something may happen to adjust that from the federal government. But for the most part, we encourage you, if you're out of work through no fault of your own, you can apply for benefits. Something may happen, like you may have had some paid wages in the last 12 to 18 months that could substantiate a claim. It could be that you've been misclassified as an independent contractor instead of an employee. And if that happens and we tell you, okay, this is what wages we have on record and you disagree, you will collect some further information from you about what your wages are. And that'll help us determine whether or not you are an employee. And if you are, it could be well-being that you will get paid benefits.
And along those same lines, if an employee believes that they in fact are an employee, they can file a claim with our office to pursue those reimbursements, the paid sick leave. We are moving to remote operations. So individuals will be able to have a telephonic conference once that claim is processed. And we have pulled all our hearings off a calendar through April 7th. I'm sorry, through April 10th. So there may be a delay as we are looking to fine tune our remote hearing operations. There may be a delay for them in actually receiving their hearing notice, but absolutely individuals can file a complaint with our office.
Thank you. At this time, I do want to let our audience know that they can ask their questions and stay in the loop by subscribing to our YouTube channel and our newsletter. We're already getting a bunch of questions in, so I'll just start with the first one. Sylvia Barba asks, what about the parents who are now working, but their children are home due to the shutdown? And what if they can't find childcare?
Well, I know that that's been confusing for a lot of people because, if you are required to miss work in order to be able to care for an independent child, for example, if you have a medical certification from a physician or a written order from a local or state health officer, you could be eligible for paid family leave benefits. If not, we're encouraging people to apply for unemployment insurance benefits. Again, the whole point is, are you losing work through no fault of your own? And so we do have some guidance on our website to really help people identify what scenario that best matches their situation and how they should proceed.
Okay. And then Tamara Andrews asks, there are questions from teachers, whether they're substitute or non-exempt teachers. They're saying they're putting in longer hours than before, and also having to learn the tech, whether it's Zoom or Google Hangouts or whatever. I'm wondering, the questioner is asking, are they obligated to do this with or without pay?
Well, absolutely. It depends on the conditions under which they're working with respects to, do they have a collective bargaining agreement or do they not? So if they have a collective bargaining agreement, then that contract lays out what those conditions are, and they should consult with their union. They do not have a collective bargaining agreement. All labor code protections and IWC orders continue to apply in this COVID-19 crisis. So yes, they should be compensated for their labor. And if they want to provide specific details or get some additional information, they can email us at dlsc2@dir.ca.gov. And if I could just, Loree, did you have something to add to that question?
No, I think that's good, Lilia. Thanks.
So I just wanted to add to the previous question. In addition to what we've already talked about with paid sick leave, we do have a kin care statute under Labor Code 230 that allows an employee whose employer provides for a paid leave policy for them to use up to 6 months of that paid leave time that they have accrued to care for themselves or to care for a family member. And separate from that, we already briefly spoke about the school-related emergency statute under Labor Code 230.8. So this applies to employers who have 25 or more employees. Then they can provide 40 hours of leave for a parent to deal with the emergency of the child, hence the school closures. Now, whether or not that leave is paid or unpaid has to do with the benefit that the employer provides.
And when someone does apply for unemployment insurance, they are required to report what kind of earnings they are collecting through any means. So if indeed there is something being provided by the employer or other benefits, we look at that in the processing of a claim. And if there are other earnings, it could reduce a benefit amount that you're eligible to receive, but that's really kind of on a case-by-case basis.
Great. Thank you both much. As Judy said, please keep these questions coming. They are flying through. One that we're getting a lot of is, sure, some people were laid off. Some people were able to work from home. What about people who are furloughed? What are their options right now, and what can they actually do in terms of collecting some kind of benefits money coming in?
Again, I think the determining factor is if they're losing work or having their hours reduced through no fault of their own. So they've lost the ability to collect the earnings that they normally rely upon, whether that's part-time or full-time, whatever their normal status is. So those are the things that we work from. We, like a check, consult that UI checklist, because we will require you to provide a lot of your financial information, your earnings information, and we can work with you on a case-by-case basis as to what that does for your eligibility.
Sure. For employers who are obviously feeling this too, what are they obligated to pay under FMLA and paid sick leave laws? And what kind of rights are their employees eligible for right now? And for
Under paid sick leave laws, they have to pay the rate of pay that they were paying. They're not allowed to pay a lesser rate. They are to pay the regular rate of pay that they were paying.
Seems simple. Judy, do you want to take the next one?
Yeah, let's see. We've got a question from Greg Van Camp. He's asking, I have a few employees with a question regarding the new federal help. I think they're going off of the assumption that if you, what we're hearing out of DC, that if you let's see, I have a few employees with a question regarding the new federal help. Some made over $99,000, but now they are out of work or laid off. Are there any provisions or considerations for those employees to get help?
I think that like I mentioned, we were waiting for details to come out of the federal government in terms of guidance. From what I understand, the bill is about 800 pages. So there's a lot of research to be done in terms of how you turn that bill into actual action and implementation. So I would just encourage people to remember the details are going to be forthcoming as to how it applies to each and every Californian. And we'll be sure to be getting out updates as well as getting information posted on our EDD website as soon as we have those details available.
Okay. And another question from my business, it looks like it's small business owner. My business has come to a complete standstill. How can self-employed people apply for unemployment benefits?
Well, generally speaking, the self-employed aren't eligible for regular unemployment insurance benefits because remember, it's an insurance program. So somebody had to have contributed to it on your behalf, much like your own car insurance. But there are variations of unemployment insurance that the federal government can authorize that does make the self-employed eligible. In the past, for instance, in our wildfire situations, we've had disaster unemployment assistance available by which self-employed can collect, and others who normally don't qualify for regular unemployment benefits could become eligible. But again, we don't have those details yet. From what I am understanding, the normal DUA program could be replaced with a different type of program that could still help the self-employed. So we really are anxious to get those details so we can pass them along to everyone.
Sure. From some of the hardest hit industries, especially like restaurants, a significant part of their workforce is undocumented. Those people aren't really going to have an opportunity to file for unemployment. So is the state doing anything? Are your departments, do you have any power to do anything for those folks or for the DACA people who have sort of been recognized by the government?
Well, I'll say one thing, then I'll pass it off to Lilia and see if she may have any comment. But for the most part, there are rules, laws governing unemployment insurance program, and you do have to have a legal right to work authorization in order to collect unemployment benefits. That's just part of the program. So that is one of those things that's part of the normal program. And I don't know if Lilia, you have anything to add about anything else that might be occurring.
Absolutely. The Labor Commissioner's Office upholds what the courts have clearly decided, that you perform labor in California and you are protected to pursue those wages. So undocumented workers have the same protections afforded in the Labor Code and the IWC orders. And we actually have additional anti-retaliation protections for immigrant-related practices. So if your employer is questioning your immigration status, if they are questioning paperwork that at its face is legitimate, if they are threatening with E-Verify, for example, or to file a false police report, all of these issues would be covered under the unfair immigration related practices. And you do have the right to file a claim with our office. And in addition to whatever back wages you may be owed, there is a $10,000 penalty that is assessed to the worker.
Along the same lines as Nigel, another question has come in about what about people with an ITIN? These are essentially undocumented workers. Are they eligible to apply for unemployment insurance? And if so, do they need to worry about the feds or ICE deportation in the future?
Documentation we collect is for the purpose of unemployment insurance benefit processing. And so right now, as the program stands, we are required to get the authorization of the legal right to work in the U.S. as part of processing that claim. So that is just something that we'll have to continue to work with individuals on. And if there's any further guidance that is developed as part of everything that's being implemented, we'll be able to pass that along.
And I think at this time, it would be helpful. Can you just provide our viewers with ways to contact EDD and the Labor Commissioner's office? Is there a phone number or a website that everyone should just, that is the first front door for you?
Well, I think this is probably the first time for many people that they've ever had to apply for unemployment insurance benefits. And we know this can be sometimes a complicated program just due to all the regulations that we have to adhere to. So first and foremost, the best thing to do is to go online at our EDD website, which is edd.ca.gov. There are links there on our Coronavirus 2020 webpage that gets you to everything you need to know for applying for those benefits online. And you can do so with your mobile phone. You don't have to have a computer at your home. We do have some call center hours, but they're limited. And I'll tell you right now, it's extraordinarily difficult to get through because we still have to have all those same people processing the claims to keep timely with those benefit payments. So really online is the best way. And we encourage you to open a UI online account because that's another way in which you can communicate with us through email and so forth about your particular claim. So that's the best, most efficient way. And we also have added, I should say, if you, we have videos in 5 different languages on our website, and that kind of gets you some better assistance for how you apply, how you start a claim. And if you do continue to need assistance, we have what are called workforce services folks out in offices, America's Job Center, Californians, throughout the state, those office locations. You can find the one closest to you on our website, contact them, and we can have staff available to help you walk through the process of filling out that application if that's needed.
And for the Labor Commissioner's office, I would also direct you to our website, dir.ca.gov. But in addition to that, we also have our Wage Theft is a Crime hotline. It's 1-844-522-6734. That's 1-844-522-6734. And also, if we refer you to our website, if you go under locations, there are email specific addresses for each office. If you're in San Diego, or if you're in Stockton, or if you're in Redding, you'll be able to email that office directly. And I will say that our team is working very hard to provide quick responses. Yesterday, I received a report that our wait time was 3 minutes on our lines. So please do give us a call. And we do have bilingual operators on hold who would be able to answer your question.
One thing I do want to get resolved. Yesterday, Governor Newsom said that there had been 1 million unemployment claims filed since March 13th. The week ending number that we've just gotten today was, I think, closer to 187,000. What's with the difference? You got to unmute. Sorry, Loree, you got to unmute.
Can you hear me okay now? Great. Yes, obviously there's some confusion around that. There is no official data for the amount of claims that we receive. The only official data that we have are those that we process that are reported up to the U.S. Department of Labor. So any of the other numbers you hear are kind of like initial cumulative estimates through this situation. So that's why there's maybe a little difference in the numbers. But the only official data, again, are those claims that are processed, which means we've worked through them. We're still either working to conclusion or we still need to work with the claimant to receive some additional information. So that's the difference in the numbers.
How far out are you forecasting? Obviously, the 1 million number didn't come from thin air. So how far out are you all forecasting? What can you say about your predictions for the future for filing?
We can't make predictions. All I can tell you is that we continue to receive a lot of, historic levels of claims on an ongoing basis. So far, it looks like a lot of the things we've been able to throw at processing this claim load are working. And we're trying to, we're creatively looking at all kinds of strategies on a daily basis. So again, development's still to come because the situation is evolving so quickly.
Loree, two quick, more technical questions. I think you'll be able to answer these for the audience pretty quickly. The Madison family is asking, you mentioned the drop-down box tomorrow. There's supposed to be a coronavirus-related one. What if they already filed and they chose public health or a different drop box option? Does that impact their standing of their claim?
No, thank you for asking that question. Nothing will impact whatever you've already submitted to us. That just helps us better track and efficiently run them through the system. But all these kind of changes take programming, which can't be done overnight, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why no worries if you've already submitted your claim. We'll be working on that in whatever way we can to get it through as quickly as possible. But again, beginning tomorrow, when you do apply, you can select that drop-down menu and the coronavirus option given, and that will really help us with efficiently processing.
Okay. And then for workers who are going through the unemployment UI claim process right now, there was one question from Elena asking, what if I don't have my pay stubs for the last 18 months? What can I use? Should I look to W-2s, or are there ways to prove my wage in
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Your W-2 is very helpful. And again, on our website, we have a link to what's called a UI checklist, and it just gives you a lot of ideas for how you can collect the information necessary that we need to process your claim.
And then what about, real quickly, for people who haven't been here a long time and maybe spent some of the last 18 months in another state, how does that impact their claim?
Well, generally speaking, wherever the wages were earned is the state responsible for paying that unemployment insurance claim. So if indeed most of the wages over that last 12 to 18 months is made in another state, that's a claim that we work with the other state in processing. If some Californians are at another state and their wages are attached to us, we're the ones who process that claim. So generally speaking, that's the way the program works.
Great. I think there's still questions coming in. Please keep submitting them. This has been great. For people who have exhausted, we talked already people who are already filing, but for people who have exhausted their unemployment benefits, now what?
Well, good point. And I think that we're seeing now the federal government a desire to help those individuals. And again, as soon as we get those details, we're going to be getting them out to people because I know they're going to make a big difference for a lot of people. So stand by. I think there is some more details coming on that, and we're anxious to get them out to you.
Real quickly, Loree, for what is the response time right now? We're getting some folks who are saying, they filed a week ago and they haven't received a response, but their rent is coming due. What can you say for those people anxious about help?
Oh, and I understand that anxiousness, really, we do. And that's why we've been throwing everything we have at this. It always will take, it doesn't matter whether it's now or a year ago, it will always take at least 3 weeks to process that claim. Usually what will happen is within a couple of weeks, we'll be contacting you. You can expect something in the mail that says, we've received your claim, we've looked at your wages, here's what it looks like and can either substantiate a claim or not. And then you're given instructions that says, okay, now into the next phase, which means you have to tell us every 2 weeks that you remain unemployed and otherwise eligible. So you get that instruction after a couple of weeks within that 3-week time frame, and usually, and then what happens is once we receive that back from you, we can turn around and issue that first payment. After that, it becomes an every 2-week process that you continue to tell us what's called certification, that you remain unemployed, and then those benefit payments will arrive every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Can you tell me how long can the state of California afford to do this? Meaning, if we're talking a million claims in the time period Newsom said, and let's say that peters out a little bit but keeps going, can the state afford to keep paying this out with the growing number of claims, and when does that run out?
Well, again, employers are the ones who contribute on behalf of each employee into the state's unemployment insurance trust fund, and that's what pays benefits to eligible workers. You may recall during the last recession, which was the Great Recession, and claim load was extensive at that particular point in time. And California, like most other states, we actually went insolvent. And we had to rely on a loan from the federal government to continue making sure that payments could be made. So as long as someone's eligible to receive a benefit payment, whether it's through state or federal help, they will continue to have that benefit payment made. It's just a matter of what it will cost to the state in the long run, if it's a loan or otherwise.
Sure. For you and for Lilia, what concerns you the most right now? Obviously, people are out of work, but I mean, from a policy standpoint, for both of you, what's worrying you?
I would say from us, it's like we don't know the details of this federal aid package. And I talked about before, the reason why we're updating our current systems is we want them to be much more agile, with a much more robust. We don't have that yet. So there's a lot of complexity to that, which requires a lot of programming. That will be a challenge. Right now, we're doing everything we can with what we have to push as many of these claims through our process automatically as possible. So I guess it would concern me. It's just how complex are these additional benefits and additional programs going to be for us to implement?
And, for the Labor Commissioner's office, we are regularly concerned with just the number of workers in the state and employers, and how challenging it is for us to get to them the basic information. And this crisis just heightens that, right? We are needing to move exponentially to reach those workers who are in a, just in a further compromised position because of what we're talking about here, the fact that so many businesses have to shut down. And so we are just concerned about getting to as many workers and as many employers as possible. And we're also concerned about those unscrupulous employers who are taking this as an opportunity to further exploit labor and to create an unfair advantage to those competitors who are following the law. And so our remote operations for our field activity is so important for us to figure out, so that we can continue to go out and conduct field inspections, so to help protect that level playing field.
And I would just add that obviously I don't think any state has ever been prepared to see an economy just come to a standstill like it has in so many different ways. That's a huge challenge, and we just know how critical these benefit payments are, this financial support to families across the state, across the nation. So that's why we're really trying to do everything we can, because we know these payments got to get out to people as quickly as possible.
And thank you so much to Lilia and Loree. I'm going to wrap it up with one last question, and you can certainly find out more and ask more questions by submitting to CalMatters.org and under our coronavirus coverage. This one, I think, is mostly for Lilia, touches on what you were saying before. How do you report a company that is not essential but still open and requiring employees to report to work or be laid off?
Thank you. So you can do it a couple of ways. You could go on our website and go to the specific office that is your local office, and you can use that email address provided on that website to provide as much detailed information that you have. So the location, what function that business serves, if you know any individuals in there and you're identifying information, if you are open to being a confidential informant, you could also go on our dir.ca.gov website under Labor Commissioner. You can file a report of labor law violation. That is a form, web form we have on there that will ask you specific information. What's most important is for you to give us a contact number so that we can follow up with you to ensure we understand as many details as you have available.
Okay, terrific. Appreciate the answer. Appreciate the time. Judy?
Yeah, Vanessa should be coming back to close things out and give people last pointers. There she is.
Hi. So yes, I wanted to say for all of us, thank you, Loree and Lilia, for joining us and answering a lot of these very important questions. Thank you, Judy and Nigel. And also, we got a lot of questions, obviously, as you can see in the chat box. Please send them again, if you would like, to our email address, info@calmatters.org. Trevor, our social media manager, is also going to be taking charge of those questions. You can email him directly at trevor@calmatters.org. If you miss any of this discussion, if you want to pass it along to people that you believe should and would be interested in this, you can watch it again or listen to it later. This video is going to live live on this YouTube channel that we have. It's also will be linked to at our website, calmatters.org. We're creating an audio podcast of this conversation as well, which will be available for download at calmatters.org and also at our podcast hub at soundcloud.com/calmatters. And again, we're doing round-the-clock reporting on the coronavirus outbreak in California. You subscribe directly to our newsletters for information at calmatters.org/subscribe, and also visit calmatters.org/coronavirus. And again, if you are able to help us with our nonprofit, nonpartisan journalism this time, please make a donation on our website, calmatters.org. These are all the ways that you can stay tuned for the next installments of our Getting Through Coronavirus Explained events. We have on deck next week a topic that is affecting a lot of parents, students, and educators about homeschooling. We will be announcing the guest, the time, and the day very shortly. In the meantime, please stay safe, stay healthy, stay sane. Thank you again for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.